I thought I was walking into my own surprise party when I pushed open my front door that Tuesday evening. Instead, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. The text contained a single video link and 5 words that would shatter my world. Happy birthday, loser. Watch this. My finger trembled as I tapped the screen. What I saw in that 60-second clip destroyed everything I believed about my marriage, my family, and my life. There was my wife, Sarah, naked in our bedroom with a man I recognized from old college photos. But the real knife to my heart came when I heard my 8-year-old daughter Emma's voice drifting up from downstairs, clear as crystal. I wish you were my real daddy instead of him. I stood frozen in my entryway, watching that cursed video replay on my phone screen. The timestamp showed it was recorded just 3 hours earlier while I was sitting in my downtown Denver office debugging code and planning how to celebrate turning 34. The man with my wife was Derek Paulson, her college boyfriend from Colorado State. I remembered his face from Sarah's old photo albums, the ones she claimed to have thrown away years ago. My hands shook as I scrolled up to see the message again. The phone number wasn't one I recognized, but somehow I knew it belonged to him. Derek had filmed himself with my wife in my own bedroom in the bed where I slept every night, and then sent it to me like some sick birthday gift. I stumbled into the kitchen and poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Sarah had told me Derek moved to California after college, that they'd lost touch completely. She'd said he was ancient history, someone who didn't matter anymore. But here he was, very much present in our lives and apparently in our house. The worst part wasn't even seeing them together. It was Emma's voice in the background, innocent and trusting, saying those words that felt like ice picks in my chest. I wish you were my real daddy instead of him. How long had she been thinking that? How long had Derek been in her life without my knowledge? I opened Sarah's laptop on the kitchen counter. She'd never been careful about passwords, always using Emma's birthday for everything. Within minutes, I was scrolling through months of deleted text messages that her phone had synced automatically. The evidence painted a picture that made my stomach turn. Derek had moved back to Denver 6 months ago, not to California like Sarah had told me. Their first secret meeting was at a coffee shop on 16th Street, just 2 blocks from my office. The messages started innocent enough, just catching up, but quickly turned intimate. By month 2, they were meeting regularly at hotels during my work hours. But it got worse. Derek hadn't just been sleeping with my wife. He'd been involved in Emma's life, picking her up from school on days when Sarah claimed her mother was helping out. He'd been taking her to Chuck E. Cheese, buying her toys, and apparently filling her head with poison about me. One text thread from 3 weeks ago made my blood run cold. Derek had written, "The kid's finally starting to see what a loser he really is. Give me 2 more weeks and she'll be begging you to leave him." Sarah's response was a heart emoji, and the words, "You're so much better with her than he ever was." I found Emma's school backpack by the front door and pulled out her art folder. Usually I loved looking at her drawings, but tonight they felt like weapons. Every family portrait from the past 2 months showed 3 figures: a tall man with dark hair, a woman with blonde curls, and a little girl. But the tall man wasn't me. The stick figure had Derek's distinctive beard and wore the red baseball cap I'd seen in Sarah's old photos. My phone rang, startling me from my spiral. It was my best friend Jake calling to ask about birthday plans. I couldn't speak. How do you tell someone that your entire life just imploded in the span of 30 minutes? Hamish. You there, man. Sarah said you wanted to keep things low-key this year, but Amanda made you that chocolate cake you love. Can we swing by around 8 EUAE? I looked at the clock. 7:15. Sarah and Emma would be home any minute, probably with Derek in tow. The thought of facing them made my chest tight. Maybe tomorrow, Jake. Something came up. Everything okay? You sound weird. Before I could answer, I heard the garage door opening. Sarah's Honda Pilot was pulling in, but I could see through the kitchen window that there were 3 heads in the car instead of 2. I walked to our bedroom and found evidence I'd missed before. Derek's cologne lingered in the air. His toothbrush sat in my bathroom holder next to mine. Clothes that weren't mine hung in my closet. The man hadn't just been visiting my house, he'd been living here part-time while I was at work. On Sarah's nightstand, I found a pregnancy test box. Empty. The receipt showed it was purchased 5 days ago. My heart hammered as I realized what this meant. We hadn't been intimate in over a month because Sarah claimed she'd been feeling sick. Now I understood why. The garage door slammed shut downstairs. I heard Emma's excited voice chattering about something, then Sarah's laugh, and finally a deeper male voice that I recognized from the video. They were all here in my house, acting like a family. I sat on the edge of my bed, our bed, and felt something hard under the comforter. Reaching underneath, I pulled out a small jewelry box. Inside was an engagement ring, not the one I'd given Sarah 7 years ago. This one was bigger, more expensive, with a note tucked inside the lid. Ready to make it official, Derek. The front door opened downstairs and Emma's voice rang out, "Daddy Derek, can you help me with my math homework like yesterday?" My world tilted sideways. Yesterday was Monday. I'd been home Monday evening working on my laptop in the living room while Sarah made dinner. Emma had done her homework at the kitchen table, and I'd assumed Sarah was helping her. But Derek had been there too, somehow helping my daughter while I sat 20 feet away completely oblivious. Footsteps approached the stairs and I heard Sarah's voice. "Hamish, are you home early? Your car's in the driveway." Her tone was casual innocent, as if she hadn't just spent the afternoon filming pornography with her ex-boyfriend in the room where I slept. I looked down at my phone. The video was still there, real and devastating. Derek had sent it to me deliberately, wanting me to know. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about replacement. He didn't just want my wife, he wanted my entire life. I heard them coming up the stairs, Sarah's familiar footsteps, Emma's lighter bounce and heavier boots that belonged to a man who had no right being in my house. I stood up from the bed, still holding the engagement ring Derek had meant for my wife. Sarah appeared in the doorway, first her blonde hair slightly messed, lipstick smudged. Behind her was Emma, clutching a Happy Meal toy, and then Derek himself. Tall, bearded, wearing that same red baseball cap from Emma's drawings. He looked exactly like the college photos, just older and more arrogant. "Oh," Sarah said, stopping short when she saw me. "You're home early." "It's my birthday," I said quietly. "I thought I'd spend it with my family." Derek stepped forward and I saw him glance at the phone in my hand. A slow smile spread across his face. "Did you get my message?" "Hamish, I wanted to make sure you knew the truth." Emma looked between us, confused. "Daddy Derek. Why does he look mad?" The words hit me like physical blows. Daddy Derek. She'd been calling him that probably for weeks while I worked late, trying to provide for what I thought was my family. "Emma, honey, go to your room," Sarah said quickly. "The grown-ups need to talk." "But I want to show Daddy Derek my new drawing," Emma protested. She held up a piece of paper with 3 stick figures labeled Derek, Mommy-o, and me. There was no 4th figure. I'd been erased completely. "Emma, go," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. She flinched and ran to Derek's side. "Don't yell at me. You're always mean. Daddy Derek is nice." Derek put his hand on Emma's shoulder protectively. "It's okay, sweetheart. Some people just don't know how to control their temper." I felt my composure cracking. "Get your hands off my daughter." "Your daughter?" Derek laughed. "Funny thing about that. Emma, tell Hamish what we talked about yesterday." Emma looked up at him adoringly. "Daddy Derek explained that sometimes mommies marry the wrong person first, but then the right daddy comes back to fix everything." "That's enough," Sarah said, but she didn't look at me when she spoke. I held up the engagement ring. "Is this what fixing everything looks like?" Sarah's face went white. Derek's smile got wider. "You went through my things," she whispered. "Your things. This is my house, Sarah. That's my bed where you filmed yourself with him. Those are my groceries, feeding him breakfast. That's my daughter he's been manipulating." Derek stepped closer. About that house, buddy. Sarah's been meaning to talk to you. We've been making some plans. I looked at my wife, the woman I'd loved for 8 years, married for 6. What plans? Sarah couldn't meet my eyes. Hamish, I never meant for you to find out this way. Derek and I, we have history. What we had was real. And when he came back 6 months ago, I interrupted. 6 months you've been lying to me. I didn't plan for this to happen, she said weakly. Derek laughed again. Oh, come on, Sarah. Tell him the truth. You called me. Remember you reached out first, said you'd made a mistake marrying him, that you'd never gotten over me. I felt the room spinning. You called him. I was lonely, Sarah whispered. You work all the time, and Derek always made me feel special, Derek finished. Like a woman should feel, not like a roommate who happens to share a bank account. That bank account, I said slowly, pieces clicking together. You've been stealing from our accounts. Derek shrugged. Sarah gave me access. Technically, it's her money too. We've been saving up for our new start. Our new start? Sarah finally looked at me. I want a divorce, Hamish. Derek proposed, and I said yes. Emma clapped her hands. Mommy's going to marry Daddy Derek, and we're going to live in a big house with a pool. I stared at this little girl I'd raised since she was 1 year old, who I'd taught to ride a bike and helped with nightmares and tucked in every single night for 7 years. She was looking at me like I was a stranger, an obstacle to her happiness. Emma, I'm your father, I said desperately. I've always been your father. Derek knelt down to her level. Remember what we talked about, sweetheart. Sometimes kids get confused about who their real daddy is, but your mommy and I love each other very much, and we want to be a real family. I already have a real family, Emma said, looking between Derek and Sarah. Then she looked at me with 8-year-old cruelty. I don't want you to be my daddy anymore. You're not fun like Derek. The words destroyed me. But worse than Emma's rejection was the satisfaction I saw in Derek's eyes. This had been planned. He'd spent months poisoning my daughter against me, grooming her to prefer him, preparing for this exact moment. Sarah pulled a manila envelope from her purse. These are divorce papers, Hamish. My lawyer drew them up. I think it would be better for everyone if you just signed them. I opened the envelope with trembling hands. The papers were professional, detailed, and devastating. Sarah was asking for the house full custody of Emma, alimony, and half my retirement savings. At the bottom, there was a line item that made my blood freeze. Petitioner requests that Derek Paulson be granted immediate step-parent adoption rights upon finalization of divorce. You want to give him legal rights to Emma. He's been more of a father to her these past 6 months than you've been in years, Sarah said coldly. Derek stood up, towering over me. Face it, Hamish, you lost. Sarah never really loved you. She settled for you because I wasn't available. But I'm back now, and we're taking back what should have always been ours. This is insane, I said. Sarah, think about what you're doing. This man abandoned you in college. He cheated on you repeatedly. You told me yourself he was selfish and immature. People change, she said, but she wouldn't look at me. He filmed you having sex and sent it to me on my birthday. Does that sound like someone who's changed? Sigh. Derek laughed. That was just a reality check, buddy. I wanted you to understand the situation clearly. No point in dragging this out longer than necessary. I looked around my bedroom at the bed where Derek had violated my marriage, at the dresser, where his clothes hung next to mine, at the window, where I'd planned to hang Christmas lights next month for Emma. Where am I supposed to go? That's not really our problem, Derek said. I'd suggest finding an apartment soon, though. Sarah and I want to start our life together, and frankly, your presence here is making Emma uncomfortable. Emma nodded seriously. You make the house feel sad, she said. When you're not here, we have fun and laugh a lot. Your things are already packed, Sarah added quietly. I put some boxes in the garage. I stared at her. You packed my things. We didn't want to make this harder than it had to be, she said, but there was guilt in her voice now. Harder than it had to be, I repeated. You mean you didn't want to deal with the inconvenience of destroying someone's life? Derek stepped between us. Look, Hamish, I get that this sucks for you. But Sarah and I are meant to be together. We always were. You were just a placeholder keeping her warm until I was ready to settle down. Ready to settle down? I laughed bitterly. What makes you think you're ready now? Because I finally found what I was looking for, he said, putting his arm around Sarah's waist. A beautiful woman, a great kid, and a nice, stable life that someone else already built for me. Why would I want to start from scratch when I can just take over something that's already perfect? The casual cruelty of his words stunned me. He wasn't even pretending to love them. He'd seen my life and decided he wanted it for himself. Srdasi, I said desperately, don't you see what he's doing? He doesn't love you. He loves the life I built for you. That's not true, she said, but her voice wavered. Then why did he wait 6 months to propose? Why didn't he fight for you when you broke up in college? Why show up now when Emma's finally old enough to be useful to him? Derek's expression hardened. Careful, buddy. You're starting to sound unstable. That kind of paranoid thinking could make a judge question your fitness as a parent. Are you threatening me? I'm just saying that angry, delusional men sometimes do unpredictable things. It would be a shame if Emma had to see her mother's ex-husband arrested for domestic violence. The implication was clear. Derek had thought this through from every angle. He'd manipulated Sarah, emotionally turned Emma against me psychologically, and now he was prepared to destroy me legally if I didn't cooperate. I looked at my daughter one more time. She was holding Derek's hand, looking up at him with pure adoration, the same way she used to look at me. Ma, I said softly. Do you remember when you had pneumonia last winter, who sat with you in the hospital for 3 days? She fidgeted uncomfortably. That was different. Different how? Derek explained that you only did that because you had to, but he does nice things because he wants to. Derek had an answer for everything. He'd spent months rewriting our history in Emma's mind, turning every loving memory into an obligation, every sacrifice into selfishness. I walked to the dresser and opened the top drawer. My clothes were gone, but there was something else. A small recording device still blinking red. Derek had been recording our entire conversation. Insurance policy, he said when he saw me notice it. Like I said, unstable men sometimes make poor choices. This will help the judge understand what kind of person Emma's been living with. I realized then that I was trapped. Every word I'd said, every emotion I'd shown was being documented to use against me. Derek hadn't just stolen my family, he'd engineered my destruction from the beginning. Sarah took a step toward me, and for a moment I thought she might show some remorse. Instead, she held out her hand. I need your house keys, she said quietly, and the garage door opener. You're kicking me out of my own house. It's not your house anymore, Derek said. Sarah's name is on the deed too, and she wants me here instead of you. Legally, she has every right to change the locks. I pulled my keys from my pocket, my hands shaking. The keychain was a photo of Emma from her first day of kindergarten, smiling and missing her 2 front teeth. She'd insisted I carry it so I'd never forget how much she loved me. As I handed the keys to my wife, Emma tugged on Derek's shirt. Can we order pizza now? You promised we could have a celebration dinner. Absolutely, sweetheart, Derek said. We're celebrating the start of our new family. Emma bounced excitedly. A family without him. Those words followed me as I walked down the stairs past the living room where I'd taught Emma to play chess, past the kitchen where I'd made her pancakes every Saturday morning, past the coat closet where her little jackets hung next to mine. I stopped at the front door and turned back. Sarah stood at the top of the stairs watching me. For a split second I saw doubt in her eyes, a flicker of the woman I'd fallen in love with. But then Derek's hand appeared on her shoulder and the moment passed. Goodbye, Hamish, she said. I hope you can find someone who makes you happy. I thought I already had, I replied. As I opened the door to leave my own house, I heard Emma's voice one last time. Mommy, can Derek sleep in your bed tonight? I don't want the mean man to come back. He's not coming back, baby, Sarah said. It's just us now. I walked to my car in the driveway, past the basketball hoop I'd installed for Emma, past the garden where Sarah and I had planted tomatoes last spring, past the mailbox with our family name that I'd painted just 2 months ago. But as I sat in my Honda Accord watching through the kitchen window as Derek lifted my daughter onto the counter to help make pizza, I made a decision that would change everything. This wasn't over. Derek thought he was clever, but he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated how far a man would go to protect his family, even when that family no longer wanted his protection. 3 days after being kicked out of my own home, I sat in the cramped office of a divorce attorney named Patricia Blackwood. Sarah had recommended her, which should have been my first warning sign. Patricia was a sharp-faced woman in her 50s who looked at me like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped in. "Mr. Morrison, I have to be frank with you," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "Your wife has presented a very compelling case for full custody of your daughter." I opened the folder and felt my stomach drop. Inside were dozens of photographs showing Emma at various events over the past 6 months. Soccer games, school plays, parent-teacher conferences. In every single photo, Derek stood beside Sarah in the spot where I should have been. I don't understand. I was at work during most of these events. Sarah told me she'd handle them. Patricia raised an eyebrow. "So you admit you were absent from important moments in your daughter's life?" "I was providing for my family. Someone has to work to pay for the house, the car, Emma's school supplies." "That's exactly what Mrs. Morrison predicted you'd say." She pulled out another document. "She's documented a pattern of emotional neglect dating back 2 years. Missed bedtime stories due to work calls, forgotten promises. Because of project deadlines, weekends spent at your laptop instead of with your family." I stared at the list, recognizing my own life reflected back at me in the worst possible light. Yes, I'd been working harder lately. The software company I worked for had been expanding, and I'd been putting in extra hours to secure a promotion that would mean better benefits for Emma's college fund. "These don't tell the whole story," I protested. "Perhaps not, but they tell a story a judge will understand," Patricia said coldly, "especially when combined with Mr. Paulson's character testimony." "Derek's giving testimony?" "Oh yes. He's provided quite detailed accounts of Emma's emotional state over the past months. How she brightens when he's around, how withdrawn she becomes when you're home, how often she's expressed feeling unloved and ignored." My hands clenched into fists. He poisoned her against me. He deliberately manipulated a child to make her feel that way. Patricia leaned back in her chair. "That's a serious accusation, Mr. Morrison. Do you have any proof of this alleged manipulation?" "The timing speaks for itself. Emma loved me 6 months ago. She was happy, affectionate, normal. Then Derek shows up and suddenly she's calling him daddy and treating me like a stranger." "Or," Patricia said smoothly, "Mr. Paulson simply filled an emotional void that your work schedule had created. Children are remarkably intuitive about who truly cares for their well-being." I realized what was happening. Patricia wasn't my lawyer. She was working for them. Sarah had sent me here to be ambushed, to be softened up for whatever legal strategy Derek had planned. "How much is he paying you?" I asked bluntly. Patricia's expression didn't change. "I'm not sure what you're implying, Mr. Morrison. I'm simply reviewing the facts of your case as they've been presented to me." "By Derek Paulson. By your wife, who has legitimate concerns about your fitness as a parent." She pulled out another file. "There's also the matter of your financial irresponsibility." This file was thicker, full of bank statements and credit card bills. I recognized some of the charges, but others were completely foreign to me. "These gambling charges at the Blackhawk casinos," Patricia continued, "$7,000 in March alone. And these cash advances always withdrawn late at night. Your wife is concerned you may have developed a serious addiction." "I've never been to Blackhawk in my life," I said, scanning the statements. "These aren't my charges. They're from your joint credit card, the one only you and your wife have access to." My blood ran cold as I understood. Derek had been using our credit cards, running up gambling debts in my name. Sarah had given him access to our accounts, and now they were using his spending to paint me as an irresponsible addict. There's also this DUI from last month, Patricia added, producing a police report. I stared at the document in disbelief. This never happened. I don't even drink and drive. This is completely fabricated. The police report seems quite legitimate. Traffic stop on Federal Boulevard, blood alcohol content of 0.12. Well over the legal limit. I grabbed the report and studied it closely. The signature at the bottom looked like mine, but the date was wrong. On that night, I'd been home with Emma helping her build a model volcano for her science project. Sarah had been at book club, which I now realized was code for being with Derek. Someone forged this, I said desperately. Patricia shrugged. That's what guilty people always claim, Mr. Morrison. The court system hears that excuse constantly. Check with the DMV. Look at my driving record. I've never had so much as a speeding ticket. Records can be altered, especially for someone with your technical expertise. Computer programmers understand how to manipulate digital databases. She was twisting my skills against me, making my competence sound like criminal capability. Every strength I possessed was being reframed as a weapon I might use against my own family. What does Derek want? I asked, too exhausted to keep fighting. Mr. Paulson wants what's best for Emma. A stable home with two parents who love her, adequate financial support and protection from any future harassment or threats. Threats? I haven't threatened anyone. Patricia pulled out a small digital recorder and pressed play. My own voice filled the office, angry and desperate. I'll do whatever it takes to get my daughter back, whatever it takes. It was from yesterday's phone conversation with Sarah when I'd called begging to talk to Emma on her birthday. But hearing it played back isolated from context, it sounded menacing and unhinged. Mr. Paulson is naturally concerned about the safety of his new family, Patricia continued. He's prepared to seek a restraining order if necessary. His new family? They're not his family. Emma is my daughter, not his. Actually, there's some question about that. Patricia opened another file, this one containing medical records. It seems your wife was pregnant when you married her. The dates suggest Emma could very well be Mr. Paulson's biological child. The room spun around me. That's impossible. Sarah and Derek broke up 8 months before Emma was born. According to your wife's new testimony, they had several encounters during that period. Reconciliation attempts that ultimately failed, but which could have resulted in pregnancy. Sarah would have told me. We've been together 8 years. She wouldn't have lied about something that fundamental. Wouldn't she? You seem to have missed quite a few things about your wife's true feelings, Mr. Morrison. Perhaps you missed this as well. I thought about Emma's features, trying to remember if she looked more like me or Sarah, but I'd been looking at her with loving eyes for so long I couldn't be objective. Did she have Derek's nose? His eye color? His smile? We can arrange for a paternity test, Patricia said, reading my thoughts. Though I should warn you that if Mr. Paulson proves to be Emma's biological father, your claim to custody becomes significantly weaker. I raised her, I said quietly. Biology doesn't matter. I've been her father every day for 7 years. That's very noble, Mr. Morrison, but family courts tend to favor biological parents, especially when those parents can provide a more stable environment. She showed me financial records comparing Derek's income to mine. On paper, he looked incredibly successful. Real estate investments, consulting fees, business partnerships. His stated income was nearly triple mine. How is this possible? Sarah told me he was unemployed when he moved back to Denver. People's circumstances change rapidly in today's economy. Mr. Paulson has been quite enterprising in building his portfolio, but something felt wrong about the numbers. Derek's income jumped dramatically right around the time he reconnected with Sarah. The consulting fees came from companies I'd never heard of, and the real estate deals seemed too good to be true. I'd like to see documentation for these business ventures, I said. Patricia's expression hardened. Mr. Morrison, I'm trying to help you understand the reality of your situation. Your wife wants a divorce. She's chosen another man. Your daughter prefers her new father figure. Fighting this will only make things more painful and expensive for everyone involved. Expensive for who? For you primarily. Mr. Paulson has significant financial resources and access to excellent legal representation. He's prepared to fight as long and as hard as necessary to protect his family. Can you say the same? Huh. The threat was clear. Derek had money real or fabricated, and he was prepared to use it to bury me in legal fees until I had no choice but to surrender. What if I just sign the papers? Then this can all be resolved quietly and amicably. You'll have visitation rights, of course. Supervised visits every other weekend, assuming you complete court-mandated counseling for your alcohol issues and anger management problems. Supervised visits, with my own daughter who I'd raised since infancy. 2 weekends a month watched by a social worker to make sure I didn't somehow damage the child I loved more than my own life. And if I don't sign... Patricia leaned forward. Then Mr. Paulson will be forced to pursue criminal charges related to the financial discrepancies in your accounts, the falsified documents he's discovered, and the threats you've made against his family. You could be looking at prison time, Mr. Morrison, and Emma would grow up knowing that her stepfather protected her mother from a dangerous man. I stood up, my legs shaky. I need time to think about this. Of course, but don't take too long. Mr. Paulson's patience isn't unlimited, and frankly, every day you delay makes your situation look more suspicious to the authorities. As I walked toward the door, Patricia called after me. Mr. Morrison. One more thing. Mr. Paulson asked me to give you this. She handed me a photograph. It showed Derek and Emma at a carnival, Emma riding on his shoulders, both of them laughing. On the back, someone had written in Emma's 8-year-old handwriting, "My real daddy is the best daddy in the world." He thought you'd want a memento, Patricia said with a thin smile. I drove home to my temporary apartment in a daze. Everything I'd believed about my life, my marriage, my daughter had been systematically dismantled in less than a week. Derek hadn't just stolen my family, he'd rewritten history to make it look like they were never really mine to begin with. But as I sat in my empty apartment that night, staring at that photograph, I started noticing details that didn't make sense. The carnival photo was too crisp, too professional. The lighting was wrong for an outdoor event. And Emma's handwriting looked forced, like someone had guided her hand. Maybe Patricia was right about Derek having unlimited resources and patience, but she'd made one mistake in her presentation. She'd given me enough information to start asking the right questions. And as a software engineer, I knew how to find answers when I had the right questions. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. The next morning I called in sick to work and drove to a shabby strip mall office near the university. The sign read, "Webb Investigations, Discreet Professional Results." Marcus Webb was a former Denver police detective who'd started his own practice after retiring early due to a back injury. His online reviews were solid, and more importantly, his rates were something I could actually afford. Marcus was a stocky black man in his early 60s with graying temples and the kind of steady gaze that made you want to tell him the truth. His office smelled like coffee and disappointment, but when I finished explaining my situation, he leaned back in his chair with an expression I couldn't read. "Let me get this straight," he said. "Your wife's ex-boyfriend shows up after 7 years, seduces her away from you, turns your kid against you, and then somehow produces financial records showing he makes 3 times your salary, anyway. That's about the size of it. And he's got lawyers' forged police reports and a stack of evidence that makes you look like an unfit father. All of it appeared in the last 6 months. Before Derek came back, my life was normal, good even. Sarah and I had problems, sure, but nothing like this." Marcus pulled out a yellow legal pad and started making notes. "Tell me about Derek's background. What do you actually know about this guy?" I realized how little I actually knew. Sarah dated him at Colorado State for about 4 years. They broke up because he cheated on her repeatedly. She said he was immature. Selfish, couldn't hold down a job. After college, she thought he moved to California. But he's been in Denver for 6 months. According to Sarah's phone records, yes. What kind of work does he claim to be doing now? I pulled out the financial documents Patricia had shown me. Real estate consulting, business partnerships, investment income. But none of it existed before he reconnected with Sarah. Marcus studied the papers with practiced eyes. These consulting fees are interesting. Look at the companies paying him. Mountain Vista Development, Summit Ridge. Investments. Peak Valley Holdings. You notice anything about those names? I looked closer. They all sound like Colorado real estate companies. They all sound like fake Colorado real estate companies. Real developers don't use generic mountain names like that. They use specific geographic references or family names. He pointed to one of the payments. This check for $15,000 supposedly came from Mountain Vista Development, but look at the routing number. I squinted at the small print at the bottom of the check image. That's a Wells Fargo branch in Fresno, California. Why would a Denver development company bank in Fresno? I knew. Maybe they have offices in multiple states. Marcus turned to his computer and started typing. After a few minutes, he shook his head. Mountain Vista Development doesn't exist. No corporate filings in Colorado, California, or anywhere else. Same with the other two companies. They're ghosts. So Derek is creating fake income. Looks that way. Question is, where's the real money coming from? Marcus leaned back in his chair. You said your wife gave him access to your joint accounts. She must have. He's been charging things to our credit cards for months. That's interesting. Most scam artists try to steal money from their victims. This guy is spending your money to create fake income that he can then use to claim financial superiority in court. It's backwards. What do you mean? Think about it. If Derek just wanted your wife, he could have swept her off her feet and convinced her to leave you. But he didn't do that. He's been systematically destroying your credibility, poisoning your daughter against you, and building a legal case to take everything you have. This isn't a crime of passion. This is a long-term strategy. The realization hit me like ice water. You think he's done this before? I think Derek Paulson might not even be his real name. Marcus turned back to his computer. Give me everything you remember about him. Physical description, approximate age, college details, anything. I spent the next hour going through every detail I could remember from Sarah's old stories about Derek. Marcus took notes, occasionally stopping to research something online. Here's what I'm finding, he said finally. Derek Paulson attended Colorado State just like your wife said, but he graduated under a different name, David Kellerman. Same person, different identity. The name change happened legally about 3 years ago in California. Why would he change his name? Marcus pulled up a news article from the Fresno Bee dated 2 years ago. David Kellerman skipped out on a $70,000 gambling debt to some very unfriendly people in Las Vegas, changed his name, and disappeared. The creditors are still looking for him. My heart started racing. So he's using my wife to hide from gambling debts. Maybe. Or maybe the gambling debts are just one piece of a bigger pattern. Marcus clicked through several more screens. I'm seeing David Kellerman connected to at least 3 different fraud investigations in California. Identity theft, check kiting, real estate scams. Nothing that stuck but a clear pattern of targeting middle-class families. Families like mine. Exactly. Stable income, good credit, trusting nature. The perfect marks for someone who wants to steal a ready-made life. Marcus printed out several documents and handed them to me. This is just the beginning, Hamish. If Derek has done this before, there are going to be other victims. Other families he's destroyed. Other children he's manipulated. How do we find them? Carefully. If Derek realizes we're investigating him, he might accelerate whatever timeline he's working on. Right now, he thinks he's got you cornered, which makes him careless. Let's use that. What do you need from me? Marcus consulted his notes. First, I need you to document every interaction you have with Derek, Sarah, or Emma. Record phone calls if it's legal in Colorado, which it is. Keep a detailed log of everything. Second, I need access to your financial records going back at least a year. Every charge, every withdrawal, every payment. We need to build a timeline of when Derek started infiltrating your accounts. What about Emma? How do I protect her while all this is happening? Marcus's expression softened. That's the hardest part, Hamish. Kids Emma's age are incredibly vulnerable to manipulation, especially from charismatic adults who know how to push their emotional buttons. Derek has probably been using classic grooming techniques, special attention gifts, secrets, gradually isolating her from you. Is the damage permanent? Not if we work fast. Children are resilient, but the longer Derek has access to her, the deeper his influence becomes. We need to expose his real identity and criminal history before he disappears with your family. You think he'll run? Eventually, yes. Men like Derek don't stick around once their scams start unraveling. But first, he'll try to extract maximum value from the situation. That means draining your accounts, possibly taking out loans or credit cards in your name, and setting you up to take the blame for his crimes. I felt a chill. Setting me up how? Marcus pointed to the forged DUI report I'd shown him earlier. This is just the beginning. If Derek's pattern holds, he'll escalate the false evidence against you. More fake crimes, more manufactured emergencies, anything to make you look dangerous and unstable. While he looks like the hero protecting my family. Exactly. And if Sarah is truly in love with him, she'll help build the case against you without realizing she's being manipulated too. We spent another hour planning our investigation strategy. Marcus would use his contacts in law enforcement to research Derek's criminal history, while I would focus on documenting his financial fraud and gathering evidence of his manipulation tactics. As I prepared to leave, Marcus stopped me at the door. Hamish, I need to warn you about something. Cases like this can get dangerous. Derek has a lot to lose if we expose him, and men with gambling debts to dangerous people sometimes make desperate choices. Are you saying he might hurt Sarah or Emma? I'm saying he might try to make you look like you hurt them. False domestic violence claims, staged incidents, manufactured evidence of stalking or threats. Stay visible, stay documented, and never ever be alone with Derek or in a situation where it's your word against his. I drove home feeling more hopeful than I had in days. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a plan and professional help. Derek might have convinced everyone else that he was a successful businessman and loving father figure. But Marcus and I were going to prove he was nothing but a sophisticated con man. What I didn't realize was that Derek was already planning his next move, and it would be far more vicious than anything I'd imagined. The first sign came that evening when my phone rang. Emma's number appeared on the screen, which was strange because she rarely called me anymore. Daddy. Her voice was small and scared, so different from the confident girl who'd rejected me days earlier. Emma, sweetheart, are you okay? Daddy, Derek isn't nice anymore, she whispered. He got really mad at Mommy and said bad words. I'm scared. Before I could respond, the phone went dead. I immediately called back, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried Sarah's phone with the same result. 20 minutes later, Sarah called me back. Don't ever call here again, she said, her voice shaky. Emma was lying. Everything's fine. Derek was just having a stressful day at work. Sarah, if he's hurting you, he's not hurting anyone. Emma misunderstood something she saw on TV. Kids get confused. But I could hear something in Sarah's voice, a tremor that hadn't been there before. Derek's mask was starting to slip, and Sarah was beginning to see what lay underneath. The question was, would she figure it out in time to save herself and Emma, or would Derek's desperation make him dangerous enough to destroy them all? Marcus called me at 6 a.m. 3 days later, his voice urgent. We need to meet right now. I found Derek's first wife. I threw on clothes and drove to a diner near Marcus's office. He was already there, surrounded by coffee cups and manila folders. Across from him sat a tired-looking woman with short brown hair and haunted eyes. Hamish Morrison, meet Jennifer Kellerman, Marcus said. Derek's first victim. Jennifer looked up at me with recognition that made my stomach clench. "You have the same expression I used to have," she said quietly. "Like you're drowning, but everyone keeps telling you the water is perfectly safe." "Tell him about Derek," Marcus prompted gently. Jennifer wrapped her hands around her coffee mug like she was trying to warm something deep inside her chest. His real name is David Kellerman, though he's used at least 4 different identities that I know of. We were married for 3 years in Fresno. I thought he was a successful real estate investor. He's not. She laughed bitterly. David never held a legitimate job the entire time I knew him. Everything was fake. The business cards, the financial statements, the references from supposed clients. He's gifted at creating elaborate illusions. How did you find out? The same way you're finding out now. Slowly then, all at once. Jennifer pulled out her phone and showed me a photo of 2 young children, a boy and girl around Emma's age. "These are my kids, Tyler and Madison. David spent 2 years convincing them I was mentally unstable, that I didn't really love them, that he was the only parent who truly cared about their well-being." The parallel to my situation was chilling. What happened? He tried to disappear with them, told everyone I was suicidal and dangerous, that he needed to protect the children from me. If I hadn't hired a private investigator to prove David's real identity, I would have lost them forever. Marcus spread out several documents. Jennifer's case helped me understand Derek's pattern. He targets stable middle-class families, usually families where the husband works long hours and the wife feels isolated or underappreciated. He poses as a successful businessman, slowly infiltrates the family structure, then systematically destroys the father figure while positioning himself as the savior. But why go through all that trouble? Why not just find single mothers? Jennifer answered. Because men like David don't want to build something from nothing. They want to steal something that already exists. A nice house, financial security, well-adjusted children, a woman who knows how to be a good partner. It's easier to take over someone else's life than create your own. Plus, Marcus added, there's the psychological thrill. David enjoys the destruction as much as the acquisition. He gets off on proving he can steal another man's family and make them grateful for it. Jennifer's expression hardened. In David's mind, men like you and my ex-husband are weak. We work steady jobs, pay our bills, sacrifice for our families. He sees that as pathetic. He thinks he's superior because he takes what he wants instead of earning it. How many times has he done this? Marcus pulled out a thick folder. After Jennifer contacted me yesterday, I reached out to law enforcement in 3 other states. We've identified at least 4 similar cases over the past 8 years. Different names, different stories, but the same pattern. David would seduce a married woman, manipulate her children, destroy her husband's reputation, then disappear with the family and whatever assets he could steal. What happened to the other families? Jennifer looked down at her hands. 2 of the fathers committed suicide. One suffered a complete mental breakdown and lost visitation rights permanently. The 4th man, he's in prison for allegedly threatening David's life, though everyone who knows him swears he was framed. The weight of those stories settled on my chest like a stone. Derek wasn't just stealing my family. He was following a playbook that had destroyed other men completely. We have to stop him, I said. Marcus nodded. That's why Jennifer flew out here. She's willing to testify about David's real identity and criminal history. Plus, she brought something else. Jennifer reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. David always recorded his conversations with my ex-husband. He used the recordings to prove how unstable and threatening Richard had become, but he was sloppy about deleting files, and I managed to recover some of them. She pressed play. Derek's voice filled the diner, but he sounded different. Colder, more calculated than the charming man I'd met in my bedroom. The beauty of this approach is that they destroy themselves, Derek was saying to someone, probably on a phone call. You give them just enough rope and they hang themselves trying to fight back. The harder they struggle, the crazier they look to everyone else. Another voice, muffled but audible, asked about the children. Kids are easy, Derek replied. They want attention and validation. You give them what their fathers are too busy to provide, then slowly introduce doubt about daddy's love. Children are remarkably willing to believe they're unloved if you present the evidence carefully enough. I felt sick listening to him discuss Emma like she was a chess piece to be moved around the board. The recording continued. The key is patience. You can't rush the psychological manipulation. It takes months to properly alienate a child from their parent, but once you do, they'll defend you against their own father. They'll even lie for you if necessary. Jennifer stopped the recording. There are hours of this. David explaining his techniques, bragging about his successes, planning his next moves. It's all evidence that this is a deliberate, calculated pattern of abuse. Marcus leaned forward. Here's what I think we should do. Jennifer's willing to go to the FBI with her evidence. David's crimes cross state lines, which makes this a federal case. But we need proof that he's actively committing fraud in Colorado right now. What kind of proof? Fight. Bank records, forged documents, evidence of identity theft. Plus, we need to catch him in the act of manipulating Emma or threatening you. How do we do that safely? Marcus smiled grimly. We give David exactly what he wants. We make him think he's won, that you're broken and defeated. Desperate men make careless mistakes, and David's desperation is about to increase significantly. Why? Jennifer answered. Because I did some research before flying out here. David owes money to some very dangerous people in Las Vegas, and they're getting impatient. He's been using your wife's credit cards to make minimum payments, but he needs a big score soon, or things are going to get ugly for him. A big score like what? Marcus pulled out another document. Like refinancing your house to cash out the equity, or taking out a large life insurance policy on you, or setting up some kind of accident that would give him access to your death benefits. The casual way he said accident made my blood run cold. You think he'd try to kill me? I think David Kellerman is running out of options, Marcus said, and men in his position sometimes choose violence over prison. Jennifer reached across the table and touched my hand. That's why we have to move fast. David's pattern is always the same. Infiltrate, manipulate, extract, disappear. But if he feels cornered, he might skip straight to the disappear part. With your wife and daughter. Or he might decide to eliminate the threat permanently, Marcus added quietly. I looked around the diner at normal people eating normal breakfasts, living normal lives where the biggest concern was whether to have bacon or sausage. 3 weeks ago, that had been my life too. What do you need me to do? Marcus opened his laptop. First, we're going to wire you for sound. Every conversation with Derek, Sarah, or Emma gets recorded. Second, you're going to start acting desperate and defeated. Make Derek think you're about to give up completely. But what about Emma? If I act defeated, won't that just confirm everything Derek's been telling her about me? Jennifer squeezed my hand. Sweetheart, Emma is already lost to his manipulation. The only way to get her back is to expose Derek for what he really is. That means taking some short-term emotional damage for long-term psychological freedom. How long before we have enough evidence? Marcus checked his notes. 2 weeks, maybe 3. Jennifer's already filed complaints with the FBI about David's activities. If we can prove he's actively defrauding you and psychologically abusing Emma, they'll move fast. What if Derek disappears before then? Then we'll find him, Jennifer said firmly. David thinks he's smarter than everyone else, but he leaves patterns. Digital footprints, financial trails, people who remember his lies. Men like him can run, but they can't hide forever. As we prepared to leave the diner, Marcus handed me a small device that looked like a pen. Recording device. Keep it on you at all times. And Hamish, be careful. David Kellerman has destroyed 4 families that we know about. Don't let yours be the 5th. I drove home thinking about those other men, the ones who'd lost everything to Derek's sophisticated psychological warfare. 2 suicides, 1 breakdown, 1 in prison. I understood now why they'd broken. Derek didn't just steal your family. He made you complicit in your own destruction. But those men had been alone, fighting shadows and lies without understanding what they were really facing. I wasn't alone. I had Marcus Jennifer and evidence that Derek was nothing more than a predatory con man who'd finally picked the wrong target. The war was about to begin in earnest, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I might actually win. 2 weeks later, everything came together faster than any of us had expected. I was sitting in my apartment that Thursday evening when my phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, and when I answered, she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "Hamish, please, I need help. Derek, he's not who I thought he was. The FBI came to the house today. They're saying he's wanted for fraud in 4 different states." My heart hammered, but I forced myself to stay calm. Marcus had warned me this moment would come when Derek's house of cards finally collapsed. "Where are you now?" "I'm in my car outside Emma's school. Derek came home when the FBI was there and he went crazy. He started screaming at the agents saying they had the wrong person, that his name was Derek Paulson, not David Kellerman. But they had photos, Hamish. Photos of him with other families, other children." I could hear Emma crying in the background. "Is Emma okay?" "She's scared." Derek grabbed her when he thought the FBI was going to arrest him. He said they were going to disappear for a while until things cooled down. But then Agent Rodriguez showed me a file with pictures of other little girls Derek had manipulated. Girls who looked just like Emma. Agent Rodriguez was the FBI investigator Marcus had connected us with. He'd been building a federal case against Derek for weeks, waiting for the right moment to move. "Sarah, where's Derek now?" "I don't know. When I saw those photos, I told him I was taking Emma to school and never coming back. He chased us to the car screaming that I was betraying him, that I'd regret leaving him." "Come to my apartment, both of you, right now." "I can't. Derek knows where you live. He's been watching you, Hamish. He has photos of your building your car, your daily routine. He's been planning something." Ice ran through my veins. "Planning what?" "I found a life insurance policy on you and his things. $2 million dated last month. And there were other papers. Something about making it look like an accident." Marcus had been right about Derek's desperation leading to violence. The con man was trapped, and trapped predators became killers. "Sarah, listen to me carefully. Drive to the police station downtown. Ask for Agent Rodriguez by name. He's expecting you." "What about Derek?" "Let the FBI handle Derek. Your job is to protect Emma and get somewhere safe." After Sarah hung up, I immediately called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. "It's happening," I said. "Derek knows the FBI is closing in. Sarah found evidence he was planning to kill me for the insurance money." "Where are you right now?" "My apartment. Sarah's taking Emma to the FBI." "Good. Stay put and keep your doors locked. I'm calling Agent Rodriguez to make sure Sarah and Emma are secure." But 20 minutes later, Marcus called back with news that made my stomach drop. Sarah never made it to the FBI office. Her car was found abandoned 3 blocks from Emma's school. No sign of Sarah or Emma. Derek took them. Looks that way. Agent Rodriguez has issued an Amber Alert for Emma and a kidnapping alert for Sarah. But Hamish, there's something else. The FBI found Derek's real plan in his hotel room. "What kind of plan?" "He was going to stage a murder-suicide. Make it look like you killed Sarah and Emma, then killed yourself out of guilt and desperation. He had detailed notes about how to set it up, what evidence to plant, how to make it believable. The calculated evil of it stunned me. Derek wasn't just going to kill us. He was going to destroy my reputation, even after death, ensuring that Emma would be remembered as the victim of her own father's madness. We have to find them. The FBI is tracking Derek's credit cards and cell phone, but he's smart, Hamish. He's been planning this exit strategy for weeks." My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. When I opened it, my heart stopped. The message contained a photo of Emma tied to a chair in what looked like a basement or garage. Her face was streaked with tears and there was a piece of duct tape across her mouth. Below the photo was a message, You destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy yours. Come to the old warehouse at 1247 Industrial Drive. Come alone or she dies. I showed the message to Marcus over video chat. His face went white. That's a trap, Hamish. Derek's planning to kill all three of you and stage it as a murder-suicide. I don't care. I can't let him hurt Emma. The FBI can handle this. They have hostage negotiators, tactical teams. There's no time. Look at the timestamp on that photo. It was taken 20 minutes ago. If Derek thinks the FBI is closing in, he might panic and hurt them both. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, if you're going to do this, you're not going alone. Give me 15 minutes to get in position with the FBI team. Do not approach that warehouse until I text you. 13 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Derek calling directly. I know you got my message, he said, his voice cold and controlled. I assume you called the cops, which means we need to speed up the timeline. Don't hurt them, Derek. This is between you and me. He laughed. Derek Paulson doesn't exist anymore. Remember? The FBI made sure of that when they started digging into my past. Now I'm just David Kellerman again, and David has nothing left to lose. What do you want? I want to finish what I started. I want to take everything from you the way you took everything from me. I didn't take anything from you. You stole my family. I gave your family what you couldn't. Love, attention, excitement. Sarah was miserable with you, Hamish. Emma felt ignored and unloved. I rescued them from a man who cared more about his career than his family. By lying to them, by manipulating a child, by showing them what they were missing. If you'd been a better husband and father, they never would have been vulnerable to my influence. The twisted logic was classic Derek. Even facing kidnapping charges and certain imprisonment, he was still trying to make me feel responsible for his crimes. Let them go and I'll come to the warehouse. You can do whatever you want to me, but Emma and Sarah don't deserve this. Oh, but they do. Sarah chose to betray me when she saw those FBI files. She chose to believe their lies instead of trusting the man who'd shown her more love in 6 months than you did in 8 years. And Emma? That little brat started crying for Daddy the moment things got scary. Not for me, the man who'd been taking care of her. For you. My heart ached hearing that Emma had called for me, but I also felt a surge of hope. Derek's hold on her wasn't as complete as he'd believed. She's 8 years old, Derek. She's scared and confused. She's ungrateful, just like her mother, but don't worry. After tonight, she'll understand that you're the reason her mommy is gone. That if you'd just signed those divorce papers and disappeared quietly, everyone would still be alive. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside the warehouse district, waiting for Marcus's signal. The area was industrial and mostly abandoned at night, perfect for Derek's purposes. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. FBI in position. 3 shooters, 2 negotiators. Go in through the front entrance. Keep Derek talking as long as possible. I walked through the rusted front door of the warehouse, my footsteps echoing in the vast, empty space. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows between stacks of abandoned equipment and shipping containers. Very good, Derek's voice called from somewhere in the darkness. You came alone just like I knew you would. That's the difference between us, Hamish. You're predictable, noble, stupid. Where are they? A spotlight suddenly blazed to life, blinding me temporarily. When my eyes adjusted, I could see Derek standing on a raised platform about 50 feet away. Sarah and Emma were tied to chairs beside him, both alive, but terrified. Daddy, Emma cried out when she saw me. The duct tape had been removed from her mouth. Daddy, Derek said you were going to hurt us, but I told him you would never hurt anyone. That's right, sweetheart. I called back, my voice steady despite the terror in my chest. Daddy's here to take you home. Derek laughed. How touching. The family reunion. Too bad it's going to be the last thing any of you remember. Derek, let them go. This is between us. You keep saying that, but you still don't understand. This was never about you, Hamish. You were just collateral damage. I needed a stable life to hide from my creditors, and your wife happened to be available. The plan was to take over your identity gradually, then disappear with your assets when the heat died down. But it didn't work out that way. No, it didn't. Because you had to be a hero. You had to hire that private investigator and dig into my past. You couldn't just accept defeat gracefully. Sarah spoke up, her voice hoarse but determined. Hamish, I'm so sorry. I believed everything Derek told me about you. I thought you didn't love us anymore, that you were too obsessed with work to care about our family. It's okay, Sarah. He's very good at manipulation. Derek stepped closer to the edge of the platform. Manipulation. I prefer to think of it as marketing. I sold your wife a better version of her life. A more exciting husband, a more attentive father figure for Emma. The fact that it was all fiction doesn't change the fact that she bought it eagerly. Because you isolated her, you made her feel unloved and unappreciated, then positioned yourself as the solution. I identified a market need and filled it efficiently. You destroyed a family for your own profit. Derek pulled a gun from his jacket. And now I'm going to destroy what's left of it. The beauty of this plan is that everyone will believe you snapped under the pressure of losing your family. Murder-suicide makes perfect sense for a desperate man facing divorce, bankruptcy, and criminal charges. What criminal charges? Derek smiled coldly. The ones I planted in your apartment before coming here. Child pornography on your computer, evidence of stalking Sarah, financial documents showing you've been embezzling from your employer. By tomorrow morning, everyone will believe Hamish Morrison was a sick, desperate man who chose murder over facing justice. You thought of everything. I always do. That's why I've been successful for so long. Except for one thing. Derek raised the gun toward Emma. What's that? You picked the wrong family this time. Before Derek could react, FBI tactical officers emerged from behind shipping containers throughout the warehouse. Red laser dots appeared on Derek's chest as Agent Rodriguez's voice boomed through a bullhorn. David Kellerman, FBI, drop your weapon and step away from the hostages. Derek's face went through a rapid series of expressions: confusion, rage, and finally resignation. He looked down at me with something like respect. You weren't as stupid as I thought. No, I was exactly as stupid as you thought, but I had help from people smarter than both of us. Derek raised the gun toward his own head. I'm not going to prison. Derek, don't, Sarah screamed. But before Derek could pull the trigger, a sniper's bullet took him down. He collapsed on the platform, the gun skittering across the concrete floor. Within minutes, FBI agents had freed Sarah and Emma. My daughter ran to me crying, wrapping her arms around my waist and refusing to let go. Daddy, I'm sorry I was mean to you. Derek told me you didn't love me anymore, but I knew he was lying when he got scary. I will always love you, Emma. No matter what anyone tells you, no matter what happens, you are the most important thing in my life. Sarah approached us slowly, tears streaming down her face. Hamish, I don't know how to apologize for what I put you through. Derek made me believe things about you, about our marriage, that weren't true. Sarah, you were manipulated by an expert. Derek spent years perfecting these techniques on other families. You're a victim too. Agent Rodriguez came over as paramedics checked Derek's vital signs. He's alive but critical. We'll need statements from all of you, but that can wait until tomorrow. Right now, you need to focus on healing as a family. As we walked out of the warehouse together, Emma between Sarah and me, I thought about the other families Derek had destroyed. The fathers who hadn't been as lucky as I was. The children who'd never learned the truth about their manipulator. Agent Rodriguez, I called back. What happens to Derek's other victims? The families from before. That's part of why this case was so important to us, he replied. David Kellerman's conviction will reopen investigations in 4 states. Some of those families might finally get justice. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of our house making pancakes for Emma on a Saturday morning. The kitchen looked exactly the same as before. Derek had poisoned our lives, but everything felt different. Better. Cleaner. Sarah walked in wearing her robe and poured herself coffee. We'd been through intensive couples therapy since the night at the warehouse, working to rebuild trust and communication. It hadn't been easy. There were still days when I caught myself wondering if her affection was genuine or just guilt. There were nights when Sarah woke up screaming from nightmares about Derek's manipulation. But we were healing, slowly, carefully, honestly. "How'd you sleep, sweetheart?" I asked Emma as she bounced into the kitchen. "Good. I dreamed about the camping trip next weekend. Are we really going to see bears?" "Maybe," I said, flipping a pancake, "but only from a safe distance." Emma climbed onto her usual stool at the breakfast bar, the same stool where she used to sit and talk to Derek while he filled her head with lies about her father. Now she chattered excitedly about school, her friends, the new guitar lessons I'd signed her up for. The transformation in Emma had been remarkable once Derek's influence was removed. Within weeks of his arrest, she'd started remembering our good times together, asking why she'd ever believed I didn't love her. The child therapist explained that Derek had used sophisticated grooming techniques, but that Emma's core attachment to me had never been truly broken. "Daddy, can I tell you something?" Emma asked quietly as I put pancakes on her plate. "You can tell me anything. Sometimes I still feel bad about the things I said to you when Derek was here, about not wanting you to be my daddy anymore." I sat down beside her and took her small hand in mine. "Emma, you were being manipulated by someone who knew exactly how to confuse your feelings. None of what happened was your fault. But I believed him when he said mean things about you." "Do you know why you believed him?" I asked gently. She shook her head. "Because you're a loving, trusting little girl who wants to see the best in people. Derek took advantage of that beautiful part of your personality. That doesn't make you bad or wrong. It makes him a very bad person who hurt children." Sarah sat down across from us. "Emma, Derek did the same thing to me. He made me believe things about Daddy that weren't true. Sometimes adults can be fooled too. Is Derek going to get out of jail and come back?" "No, sweetheart," I said firmly. "Derek is going to be in prison for a very long time, and even if he ever gets out, he's not allowed to contact our family ever again." The trial had been swift and decisive. Derek, whose real name was David Kellerman, had pled guilty to kidnapping, fraud, identity theft, and a dozen other charges. He'd been sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. The evidence Marcus and Jennifer had gathered, combined with the recordings from the warehouse, had made his conviction inevitable. More importantly, Derek's arrest had led to justice for his previous victims. Two of the families he'd destroyed had been reunited when the truth about Derek's manipulation came to light. The man who'd been in prison for allegedly threatening Derek had been released and cleared of all charges. Only the fathers who'd committed suicide would never see justice, but their families finally understood that their deaths hadn't been their fault. Jennifer Kellerman had become a close friend to our family. Her own children, Tyler and Madison, had recovered from Derek's psychological abuse and were thriving with their mother. Jennifer had started a support group for families who'd been targeted by manipulative predators, and Sarah had become one of her most active volunteers. "I have something to tell you both," Sarah said as we finished breakfast. Emma and I looked up expectantly. "The district attorney's office called yesterday. They want me to speak at a conference about family manipulation and domestic abuse. They think our story could help other families recognize the warning signs before it's too late." "Will you do it?" I asked. Sarah nodded. "I think I need to. Derek destroyed so many families before ours. If sharing what happened to us can prevent even one more family from going through this nightmare, it's worth the embarrassment." "It's not embarrassing, Mommy," Emma said seriously. "It's brave." "When did you get so wise?" Sarah asked, ruffling Emma's hair. "From Daddy. He taught me that brave people help other people even when it's scary." After breakfast, I walked out to check the mail. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was watering her garden next door. "Good morning, Hamish. How's the family doing?" "Better every day, thanks." Mrs. Patterson had been one of the few people in the neighborhood who'd never believed Derek's stories about me. While everyone else had been charmed by his supposed success and attentiveness to Sarah and Emma, she'd noticed inconsistencies in his stories, and the way he seemed to watch our house even when he wasn't supposed to be there. I keep thinking about how close you came to losing everything, she said. That Derek fellow was so convincing. Even I started to wonder if maybe you really were working too much and neglecting your family. That's how predators like Derek operate. They find a grain of truth and build a mountain of lies around it. Yes, I was working long hours. Yes, Sarah felt lonely sometimes. Yes, Emma wanted more attention. But those normal family challenges became weapons in Derek's hands. Have you thought about what you learned from all this? It was a question I'd been asking myself for months. What had I learned from having my life nearly destroyed by a sophisticated con man? I learned that families are more fragile than I thought, but also stronger. Derek was able to drive wedges between us because we'd stopped communicating openly about our needs and feelings. But once we started being honest about what was really happening, his lies couldn't survive. And Emma, how is she processing everything? Better than Sarah or me, honestly. Kids are remarkably resilient when they feel safe and loved. Emma's therapist says she's actually developed a stronger sense of self-worth through learning to trust her own feelings instead of being told how to feel. I walked back into the house with the mail and found Sarah and Emma looking at photos on Sarah's laptop. "What are you two plotting?" "We're planning a surprise for you," Emma said excitedly. "But we can't tell you what it is." "Is it bigger than a bread box?" "Daddy," Emma giggled. "You can't guess, it's a surprise." Sarah smiled at me over Emma's head. It was the first genuinely happy smile I'd seen from her since before Derek entered our lives. Not grateful, not guilty, not trying to make amends. Just happy. "Actually," Sarah said, "we can tell you part of it. Emma and I have been talking and we want to renew our wedding vows." I was stunned. "Are you sure?" Derek made me question everything I believed about our marriage, about love, about family. "I need to make new promises to you, Hamish. Honest promises based on who we really are, not who Derek told me we were." Emma bounced in her chair. "And I get to be the flower girl Mommy said I can throw petals and everything." "When were you thinking of doing this?" "Next month. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Marcus said he'd be honored to be your best man." Marcus Webb had become much more than our private investigator. He'd become a friend and father figure to Emma, someone who understood the psychological warfare we'd survived and helped us process the complex emotions that came with recovery. "I'd love that," I said, sitting down beside them. "But are you sure you're ready? It's only been 6 months since I almost destroyed our family by believing a sociopath's lies," Sarah finished quietly. "Hamish, I'll be dealing with that guilt for the rest of my life. But I don't want to let Derek win by staying broken forever. I want to choose love over fear. I want to choose trust over suspicion. I want to choose our family over the poison he tried to inject into our lives." Emma climbed into my lap. "Daddy, do you still love Mommy, even though she was mean to you?" "I never stopped loving Mommy, sweetheart. Love doesn't turn off just because someone makes a mistake. Even a really big mistake. Even a really big mistake. That's what makes it real love instead of pretend love." "Derek's love was pretend, wasn't it?" Sarah answered. "Derek doesn't know how to love anyone, Emma. He only knows how to take things from people. But real love gives things instead of taking them." As the afternoon wore on, I found myself thinking about the path that had brought us to this moment. 6 months ago, I'd been a man watching his family slip away, convinced I was losing everything that mattered to him. I'd felt powerless, confused, and utterly alone. But I'd learned something important about strength. Real strength wasn't about never falling down. Real strength was about who you called when you couldn't get back up by yourself. Marcus Jennifer, the FBI agents, Emma's therapist, our marriage counselor, even Mrs. Patterson next door. We'd been surrounded by people willing to help us heal, but only if we were brave enough to admit we needed help. Derek had counted on us being too proud or too ashamed to reach out. He'd wanted me to suffer in silence while he systematically destroyed everything I loved. But when I'd finally swallowed my pride and asked for help, his entire plan had crumbled. That evening, as I tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at me with serious 8-year-old eyes. Daddy, are you happy now? Yes, sweetheart. Are you? Yes, but I'm also sad sometimes about the kids who don't have daddies like you. What do you mean? Mrs. Jennifer told me that Derek hurt other little girls like me, but their daddies couldn't save them. That makes me sad. I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. That's one of the reasons Mommy is going to talk to people about what happened to us, so other mommies and daddies can learn to protect their families from people like Derek. Will you help too? If I can. Good. Because I think other kids should know that even when bad people tell lies about their parents, they should remember that their parents love them no matter what. The wisdom in her words took my breath away. This 8-year-old girl who'd been manipulated and emotionally abused by a skilled predator had emerged with a deeper understanding of love and family than many adults ever develop. You're absolutely right, Emma. And you know what I think you might want to help Mommy talk to people someday when you're older. Really, I could help other kids. I think you'd be amazing at it. After Emma fell asleep, Sarah and I sat on our back porch watching the sunset over the mountains. It was the same view we'd enjoyed for years, but it felt different now. More precious. More intentional. Do you think we're going to be okay? Sarah asked quietly. I think we're stronger now than we were before, Derek, I said honestly. We're more honest with each other, more intentional about our communication, more grateful for what we have. I keep thinking about what Derek said in the warehouse about identifying market needs. I hate that he was right about some of our problems. He was right that we had problems, but he was wrong about everything else. Couples counseling could have helped us communicate better. Date nights could have helped us reconnect. Family therapy could have helped us balance work and home life. What we needed was healing, not destruction. Sarah leaned against my shoulder. I've been thinking about something else too. Derek didn't just target our family randomly. He specifically chose a family where the father worked long hours and traveled sometimes. He was looking for fathers he could portray as absent or neglectful. What's your point? My point is that there are probably millions of families with similar vulnerabilities. Hardworking fathers who sacrifice time with their families to provide financial security. Mothers who feel isolated or underappreciated. Children who crave more attention from their parents. Derek's approach would work on a lot of families. Which is why your speaking engagement is so important. And why Emma's right about helping other kids. This isn't just about our family anymore. It's about protecting all the families that predators like Derek target. As I looked out at the mountains, I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago. Comfortable in his routines, confident in his relationships, trusting that good people were safe from evil people. That man had been naive, but he'd also been happy. The man I was now had seen the depths of human manipulation and cruelty. I knew how easily a family could be destroyed by someone who understood psychological warfare. I knew how quickly children could be turned against their parents, how efficiently love could be weaponized into betrayal. But I also knew something else. I knew that families who survived attacks like Derek's emerged stronger and more connected than before. I knew that children were more resilient than predators believed. I knew that communities could rally around threatened families if they recognized the danger in time. Most importantly, I knew that love was more powerful than manipulation, truth was more enduring than lies, and that families built on genuine commitment could survive almost anything. Derek Kellerman had tried to steal my life by convincing my family I didn't deserve their love. But in the end, all he'd done was prove how much we really did love each other. As we went inside that night, I stopped at Emma's bedroom door and watched her sleeping peacefully, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. This was the little girl who'd once told me she wished Derek were her father instead of me. Now she called me the best daddy in the world and meant it. Derek had bet everything on his ability to permanently damage our family bonds. He'd lost that bet completely. Tomorrow, Sarah would start preparing her speech for the district attorney's conference. Next month, we'd renew our wedding vows in front of family and friends who'd supported us through our darkest time. Next year, Emma would be old enough to understand more about what had happened and why it mattered that we'd all survived it together. But tonight I was just a father, tucking his family into a safe home, grateful for second chances and the people who'd helped us earn them. The nightmare was over. The healing would continue for years. But the love at the center of our family had not only survived Derek's assault, it had grown stronger because of it. And that's a lesson I hope other families never have to learn the hard way. Before I finish, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like someone was trying to manipulate your family relationships? Maybe it wasn't as extreme as what we went through, but manipulation can take many forms. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If our story helped you understand something about your own situation, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges. And if you think this story could help other families recognize manipulation tactics before it's too late, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to our story. I hope your family stays safe, stays connected, and never has to learn these lessons the way we did. Remember that real love builds people up instead of tearing them down, and anyone who tries to isolate you from the people who care about you is not acting in your best interest. Take care of each other out there.